Welcome, podcastians, to the Nerdist Podcast, episode number 200. What? Oh my god. Has it been 200 episodes? Since 3 awkward, nerdy dorks got together and started talking into a microphone? I promised myself I wouldn't cry. Everyone's been saying, like, oh, what are you going to do for the 200th? We're doing something over at the Nerdist newsletter and on Nerdist.com. But then I thought, oh, maybe I should have done something for, maybe it should be the 128th episode and the 256th episode and then the 512th episode. We just do it that way. But we do. It's our 200th episode, and I just cannot thank you enough for letting us do this, and the fact that you listen makes it possible for us to do this, and your support has been overwhelming, and we love it. We still love doing the podcast. We're going to keep making them as long as it's fun, and it's still really fun. So thank you. I would jump through your earphones and give you hugs, but that would be impossible, and were it possible, that would explode your eardrums, and so I take that back. But I instead will watch you while you're sleeping. And is that creepy, Katie? Katie thinks that's creepy. Well, I won't do anything. I'll just watch. What's wrong with that, Katie? I'll be like the Santa Claus of sleep. I'll just go around and watch everyone sleep.
It's even creepier.
It is? Damn it. All right. I won't watch you sleep. Hey, Nerdist Podcast Live is coming to Boston, Massachusetts, May 4th. May the 4th, Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. We will be at the Wilbur Theater in Boston, Massachusetts. Myself, Jonah Ray, and Matt Myra. So please come out. There are a few tickets still available. If you go to nerdist.com/calendar, you can click on the link there and get those tickets. Come out. We'll do the show, come out afterwards, and say hello to everyone. I'll finally get to meet a lot of Matt Myra's friends that I've heard about all these years. And it's going to be a really fun show. So please come out to that. Also, Stamps.com is our sponsor for this episode of the Nerdist Podcast. It is damned easy and convenient to use Stamps.com. You can buy and print official U.S. postage using your own computer and printer, or someone else's if you want to. You can use any computer if you have an account. You're not going to have to drop what you're doing just to go to the post office. It won't disrupt your workflow in a horrible way. Print out postage for any letter or package within seconds, right from your desk, 24/7. The post office may be closed, people, but Stamps.com is always open because the internet never closes. It's not like old television, where they're just going to run the color bars in the middle of the night. The internet is always available to you. And right now, Stamps.com has a special offer for Nerdist listeners. Use the promo code Nerdist to get a no-risk trial plus a $110 bonus offer, including a digital scale and up to $55 of free postage. So don't wait. Go to Stamps.com before you do anything else. Click the radio microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Nerdist. That's Stamps.com and enter the promo code Nerdist. And now this episode, our special 200th episode, it's our friend Kevin Smith is back. Kevin Smith has come back on the podcast. We had a great time with him last year at Smodcastle, and he's been a really good friend to the Nerdist community. He's been on Talking Dead a couple times. He did a show up at SF Sketchfest. He's a real pioneer in the field of figuring out how to take the podcast kind of out of the iPod. I know you're probably not even listening to this on an iPod, but if you are, I just don't know what else to call it. He's taken it out of the smartphone device and brought podcasting into the real world, and it's been really fun to watch. And the guy couldn't be nicer or cooler, and we love having him on. So here we go, the Nerdist Podcast number 200, Katie! 200! 200.
Yeah.
Why don't you seem that excited?
I'm excited.
Really? Because it doesn't seem like you're that excited.
I'm really excited.
Well, now it sounds like you're forced. That's forced.
Oh.
Yes. You know what I just did? I audience warmed you up. That's come on, you can do better than that, Katie. Except it's an audience person of one. What, do you mean, a fucking t-shirt cannon to fire at you? To rile you up? Nerdist Podcast episode number 200 with Kevin Smith. It's too late.
Now entering Nerdist.com.
paid vacation. You can come out and bring your wife. My wife's like, woo. So I was like,
Yeah.
so off we
That's
went.
how to do it. The International Film Festival, that was a big
They
deal.
treated us really well, and they did
Yeah.
Q&A there. They were pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's how I got to see Battle Royale when it first came out. It's because it
This
premiered there.
just popped up on my radar. I'm not a good geek because I don't cover everything in the world, and somebody brought this up. We were talking about it where?
On Smodcast.
We were just
I listened
talking
to the
about
last one.
podcast,
Yeah.
But did he bring it up? Did Mosier go?
Yeah.
What did I say Battle Royale?
I think you said,
There's
what's
somebody
this
had
Battle
tweeted
Royale?
and
Yeah,
said
yeah,
something about Battle Royale and fucking.
That was probably just because the Hunger Games, which is
Yeah,
white
because that's what we
Battle
were talking
Royale,
about,
or you could
Hunger
say Battle Royale is Asian Running Man.
Right.
I said
They
I
said
called
it.
it Logan's Running Man.
Logan's Running Man.
The one I
Game
saw on
sound
Twitter a
works.
lot was Battle Royale with cheese.
Oh, that was the great. Yeah, I saw that as a meme. Like,
Yeah,
like
that was the
what
one
do
I
you
saw.
call
Battle Royale.
Hunger Games?
Kevin Smith is on our podcast right now.
Hello, folks. How are
Dude.
you? How are you guys?
Good. Do you want a chair? You got a
No,
chair
I'm
for you there?
standard.
You got a
When I-
bottle?
When I sit, the gut turns into Quado.
Oh, I got
You
over
wanna-
it.
Yeah,
I got over
I
it.
know you,
I got over
but
it.
you're better.
Open
Matt,
your
you
mind,
wear
Mr.
it
Smith.
better than me, and I can't. I'm
You
still
give me
not
a
in the
hockey
place.
jersey, I will look just like you.
I know, but you still wear
Plaid,
better
Kevin.
than me.
You got to get into plaid.
I can't do it. That's this whole fucking thing, man. I can't steal that. We can curse, right?
Yeah, of course.
Please.
Open.
No,
Yeah.
because Vader pussy is when we
Is
stopped
that
doing
what
it.
it was?
Yeah.
I thought that was just in my place, and you guys were like, "Oh my god, we could curse here." Out from under
It
the
was
fucking
like a-
rolling thumb of hardwoods, like no cursing, bitch.
At Uncle Kevin's house, he lets us swear and eat devil dogs.
Oh, well, maybe you should just go move in with Uncle Kevin. Maybe he'll pay for your guitar lessons.
Maybe I will.
You guys got to listen to your father. He's a good guy.
Uncle Kevin has boxes of water.
Those water
That
boxes.
dude, oh my god, it's so sad. That dude just wrote me an email recently going, "Hey man, when I know you guys shuttered the castle because we like moved up to the
Yeah.
Lovitz." He's going, "But I bought a fridge for you guys to vend water, and that was like $600. Can I have that shit back?" And it's been sitting like up at the Lovitz just in storage. And meanwhile, the dude, the tenor of his email indicated the frustration of like 6th month. Why can't I get this fridge back? And it's sitting in a fucking closet, like heartbreakingly. I just said, "Jordan, isn't this that fridge?" And she was like, "Yeah." Boom, it got taken care of. But that boxed water, man.
You should have seen how like you stretch it out. Just be like, I really need it in that closet.
I was like, "Look, here's the thing. My mother's dying, and we put her medicine in that closet." In that
I
little
should have
fridge.
came to you sooner.
It's like when the Simpsons move and you only move twice when he goes to work for Hank Scorpio.
Yeah.
One
And
best
Flanders
episode.
is like, Homer, are you gonna need any of those things that you borrowed from me? And there's like a bathtub that says Flanders on it. And he looks at it and goes, "Yes." And then Flanders doesn't say anything. He goes, "Oakley dokley."
We got an anonymous tip from a neighborino. That... Just saw that.
That was
What have you
good
guys
shit.
been up to? I know what you've been up to. You're all conquering the fucking television.
No, me, no.
You and I, sir, side by side, podcasters, fucking
Podcasters unite.
podcasters who are like, we're on TV now.
You were on a couple of episodes of Talking Dead, and thank you very much for doing that.
Fun. I love that show. I went out into the world preaching the gospel of that show, and other people were like, they do it on Bravo, Dick. And I was like, well, I don't watch Bravo, motherfucker. But the idea of watching a show, and then right after the show's done, you're like, hey, man, let's talk about the show we just watched.
Because that's what you're going to do with your friends anyway.
I love it, dude. That's
So-
what they did in sports for fucking years, over in athletics with those dudes.
Yeah,
and whatnot.
they do.
They would watch they don't even wait till the end of the game. They sit there in the middle of the game, and they're just like, well, let's just talk about something that just
Oh,
happened.
we should break in during Walking Dead. What do you think Rick's going to do now?
The commercial
Yeah.
break.
Halftime.
Wouldn't that be amazing to come to you guys at the break, and you're just like, oh my God, that face.
Well,
gonna
it
be
looks like Herschel's going through some real issues here with killing the walkers, but I really think he's going to work through these things, Chris.
If he becomes a zombie, we've determined that his name would be Herschel Walker. That was the joke. That was the joke that we got.
Yeah, man, you could do it like Lovitz in those old SNL sketches where the tales of ribaldry, and they come back and it's like, just have that face on when they come back. Did Shane just drop to the ground?
No. Yeah, so I've been working on stuff. I've been launching this YouTube channel. You're working on your podcast.
Explain
network.
that. Explain the YouTube channel. Everyone listening to this, of course, knows, but explain it to me.
It
so
was
I can
basically.
copy it.
It was. I've already. Listen, I invite you to do that. I've already copied you. You know, Smodcastle was
You were
the
very
inspiration
sweet.
for Nerd Melt Theater.
Very sweet. He wrote a blog at one point where he's like, I'm not gonna lie, I saw this and I wanted it.
it's a great idea. Is a great idea, and so
explain the channel. What's who's behind it? Did you go into Google and go like, give me some of that money? Was that what it was about?
YouTube gave allocations to a series of people across, what you would refer to as a series of verticals like sports, music, dance, whatever. And then there were a handful of geek pop culture sites. I'm doing electronica.
He's got all the original Fly Girls from In Living Color. It's real good.
I just love to scratch. I love to scratch DJ.
J-Lo and Rosie Perez.
Yeah.
But they both have moments where in the middle of the dance they have to stop and do a scene about like being abused by a husband. Like
you know how hard it is?
Yeah. That was what she loved.
Never mind Jennifer Lopez. You could take that role, sir. You just nailed it out the park. All you have to do is eventually get to, I've had enough.
That's right. And
if I get to that point, I tell you guys, I'll be made in Manhattan.
We've opened a series.
Holy shit,
we've opened a series of socially conscious fly abuse shelters. So that's part of that
just
too.
Took it to a dark.
Wow,
I did.
Quick, tell us about the channel.
Okay.
Make people happy again. What is it? What are you guys doing? Who did you sugar daddy with?
We partnered with the Jim Henson Company and Broadway Video, and so
they got some of that sweet money.
They got a little bit, to make programming. I mean, all the money's going into programming.
We know an audience. We can talk to an audience.
So we're making shows with like Weird Al and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Neil Patrick Harris and me and bunch of people but not just famous people, but also people who like. A couple of our podcasts are becoming video shows, like Comic Book Club and the Indoor Kids for video games. And
I mean, that's the thing.
So Harry Knowles is going to have one.
Yeah, Ain't It Cool News is going to be.
They're so easy to shoot. Like this now in this day and age, this is a show. Like literally, you throw 4 cameras or even 1 camera, just keep doing this. You throw that up and you got a show. As well.
It is interesting where we kind of
show. That's what we've been doing for years.
We build up this idea in our heads, like, oh no, a show is a thing, and you're like, well. Actually, it's really not that hard.
When you look at the Talking Dead, and this is not like a slam. This is high praise. It is simplicity defined because it's literally people sitting around having a conversation.
Yeah,
sounds like a slam.
It's a fucking chat show, but one that's specialized. For years, you watched chat shows where it's like all these fuckers are old. They're all gonna die, and they've all had more pussy than I'll ever see in my fucking life. I'm not identified with any of these people. Then they have chat shows now that are more specialized, dialed in, where it's just like all we talk about here is that show that just happened.
It makes sense. I think rather than launching a talk show that's just quote unquote comedy. Like having something to talk about,
absolutely.
John Stewart always said about the Daily Show, like in any shows that he produced, his producing partner said, yeah, John always says, what is the show ultimately about? Right. And that's really what drives the content of the show, and it really makes it so much easier when you know what your kind of general area of topic is.
But you see, that's only something that comes about with the 21st century media. Old story would have been, what do you mean? Talk about just that one thing? You're out of your mind. You got to go broad to reach as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, it's all about micromanaging small pockets. It's no longer like cast a wide net because that's expensive and only people with huge pockets. Like Warner Brothers, Marvel, Disney, they're casting wide nets when it comes to Avengers Dark Knight. But you can't do that for everything. You can't do that for a talk show that specializes in something very specifically. But you don't have to cast the wide net. You just prey upon the people who are into that right there. Sounds vicious, but it's kind of true. You just be like, here's the show for you. It's totally specialized. We're not going to appeal to anybody else. We're not bringing in guests. Like, Charo ain't going to be on this motherfucker.
Oh, I want Charo.
Unless she's like in an episode of The Walking Dead. And she would Gucci. Blew her head off.
Did she lose her leg?
No. You're thinking of Zsa Zsa
Gabor. The other staple.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's kind of nifty, man. At this point, you don't need stuff like that. You can literally just have people sitting around chit-chatting. As long as the subject matter is interesting enough, you can home grow a good enough audience to stay on TV. Like when we did that Clerks cartoon like fucking 10 years ago plus.
I love that thing.
Thank you. I always put applause just for somebody to say that.
I did.
So I left the truck for that to drive right there. See, when we did it, man, it was like we had, what was the rating? It was like a 7 share or something fucking ridiculous where today, in this day and age, somebody would be like, I'd suck a dick for 7 share.
Right.
But when we had it, ABC was just like, well, sorry, guys. We'll give you 2 runs.
Swing and a miss.
Totally. And now even ABC knows how to like program to a specialty market. They'd probably let something like that sit on in this climate because there's far too much competition.
Oh, like what are thought of as the most successful like some of the more popular shows, not successful, but some of the more popular shows on television. that have just sort of penetrated culturally, the numbers really aren't phenomenal on those shows.
We run the risk of cutting our own throats even talking about our corporate masters in this case, but perfect example is Mad Men. Mad Men just debuted the other night, did 3.5 million viewers or whatever.
Yeah.
That to me is huge.
Huge
for a
number.
show about fucking 1968.
Yeah.
Where really nobody's that likable and they're all pricks. And when you're watching it, you're like, oh, the good thing about it is all these people are dead now. You know? All of this evil has stopped. He stopped.
I do
so
think
much
about
Show
this
shit.
should be called "Everyone's the Worst."
I know. Or the moment we all became bad. That's kind of what the show's about. But for that number, that's an impressive number, especially when you consider how long they've built up to that figure.
Yeah.
But that number on like ABC, NBC, they'd have canceled it so long ago, man.
Yeah.
But now, at like an AMC could go like, hey, man, we can work with that number. That number's gold, man,
Yeah.
because it leads to this. You and I, particularly in this instance, owe a lot to that show because they paved the way for like, without Mad Men, there's no Breaking Bad. Without Breaking Bad, there's no Killing. Without Killing, there's no Walking Dead. Without Walking Dead, there's no Talking Dead. Without Walking Dead, Talking Dead, there's no Comic Book Man.
Right.
So you and I got to find Matt Weiner and just be like, in some way, man. He opened up some fucking doors. But those numbers, you don't have to have. Like the last episode of MASH, man, 30 billion people tuned
Right.
in. Now you can literally, on Comic Book Man, we delivered at one point, there was 1.4 million people watching an episode, third episode. And I was like, sorry, guys, like 1.4 for the budget of this show, for what we're pulling in advertising? We love it. You know, like, you're like, oh my God, right on. And then the next week we went up, the next week went up after that. So water finds its level, and that audience will kind of seek it out, man. Just the way people seek out Talking. I always thought they should have put Talking Dead right after Walking Dead. I think they might do that next year.
Well, we did that on the season finale.
On the finale.
And it was
gargantuan.
It was
wasn't
good.
it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like we got to.
You guys always pulled strong numbers. That was when I went in to talk about Comic Book Man. I was talking to Stillerman and whatnot. He's like, "Look, man, Talking Dead plays an hour after Walking Dead first plays, and they're pulling in like 1 million people. That was in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just like, that's astounding, man. He's like, imagine if we just butted it up against, which I always thought it should be. It should be like Walking Dead, and then immediately get into the talk like they did in episode 6.
Well,
I think they'll do that next year.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm
think
up.
they
I'm
will.
up.
If they
I'm up
pick
for
us
whatever.
If they wind up going to season 2 with us, I imagine my prediction is the lineup would be Comic Book Man will drop to a 30-minute, and it'll go to Walking Dead, Talking Dead, Comic Book Man.
That's a good lineup.
I watch. I'm already watching. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's it's all win.
That show's been such a dream job for me. I just fucking love it so much.
It's neat. It opens up doors.
I would do it, but I would. Yeah, I shouldn't say this
We can
out
open
loud.
up doors now. Tell them about Phoebe.
Phoebe, Four Eyes and Beard, number 2 in comedy right now.
Of course it is.
Number 9 overall.
Holy shit!
The only thing holding us back from number 1 is this fucking show.
Is that it?
Yeah, it's
Knock it down, man.
The co-branding of Smodcast Network and Nerdist, where you know you and Scott have been friends. Scott Mosier have been friends for a while, and you're like,
Yeah.
we want to do a podcast. You know, should we do it on Nerdist? Should we do it on Smodcast? And I was like, well, let's both distribute it. I'm curious to see how that works. You know, like there's no
I
reason
still don't know how that works. I've been talking to Ming about it. I'm like, how is this working?
It aggregates into number 2 in comedy and
Yeah,
number
there you
9
go.
overall is what it
It
is.
seems to work. Yeah, it was just the thing. Scott and I were like, hey, let's do another thing where we can all actually talk. You know,
With 4 eyes and a beard. FEA.
4 eyes and a
Phoebe.
beard. That's 4
I
eyes
thought
and a
it'd be
beard.
Miramoj.
That's right.
Miramage's
That's what I said
good.
to him, and we do it. for the next one.
Miramoj.
Yeah.
Yes. It was easy. It's visionary.
But no, it's good. We got a lot of good feedback. I don't even want anyone to tell me what they thought of it. Just consume it. That's
They
what I
dig
want.
it. They dig
yeah.
it.
They
I like
ju-
it a lot.
He's a good guy to sit next to, isn't he?
He really is. He
I
really
was
is.
sitting next to that dude for the better part of 20 years. And,
He's easy on the eyes too.
it's very easy to look at, which is weird
His
because you
voice is
imagine it'd be
comforting.
threatening for like somebody who don't look like Hardwick and Mose kind of look alike. They're good looking, they get pussy and shit. When you sit opposite
We
them,
do?
it's just like, yeah, you
Yeah.
fall
Oh
in
my-
that group.
Look down, Chris.
Oh my God! Shoot! Damn vaginas again.
But it's
Where's
like
my
Moj,
slaughter?
and I imagine it's the same with Chris. He don't make you feel threatened. He doesn't make
Yeah.
you feel like I'm better looking than you, and I fucking know. The alpha male doesn't quite exist there.
No,
And
but it
makes easier to
should.
talk
That
to.
fucking beard.
Yes, the beard alone. Even without it, he's
Christ.
just, when he takes it off, he looks like 20 years younger.
Let's all just hope he doesn't become self-aware.
That's the problem. My God, if all of a sudden one day he's like, I have so much power.
He's
My
an
favorite-
iRobot waiting to have. iMosier. He's waiting to
My
happen.
favorite review so far of Phoebe is like, oh, so this is what it's like when Matt gets to finish a thought or an interesting bit of trivia without Jonah telling him to shut up.
So fucking besides the point because you bring in those trivias in the middle of someone else's conversation. It does matter.
The point is, it's interesting.
Yeah, you guys don't have a guest. It's just the two of you.
Do you guys have a guest every show?
No, we do 2 guested episodes a week and then 1 hostful episode where it's just the 3 of us.
So how many episodes you do a week?
3.
3. That's why Jay Moore is like, I want to go to more episodes per week. Jay Moore, like last week, was like, I want to go to 2 episodes a week. I was like, really? Why? He was just like, cuz man, like if you have more episodes, you're on the charts more. I'm not a chart guy.
It's not that for me. It was more that we've been booking a lot of guests lately because it's hard for me to say no if someone's like, hey, totally. Do you want Cranston to come on? I'm like, of course. And so, we just have all these episodes banked, and then a lot of them we were holding on to for months. And so it was really just a way to clear out our inventory where you, the consumer, wins. So we will only do that. We'll only do 3 a week as long as it is still as long as we feel like the quality isn't being compromised, or like I don't want to force 3 a week.
It's to the point where I see an episode go up and I go, oh yeah, I forgot we did that one.
Yeah.
How far back do you guys record? How far out do you record?
It really just depends on
we're not live. When will this go?
Well, this will probably go up pretty quickly.
Today or this week?
No, it'll probably go up next week or the week after.
So you guys are a few days out every time.
Sometimes we're a couple months out. It just depends on how evergreen the episode is or how much someone needs to promote something. Like if they come in specifically because they have a book out, that'll go up sooner.
Right.
So it really, there's some sort of a weird sloppy matrix in my head, but there's no real.
What's your road matrix or metric rather? Do you have a figure like, okay, this is what we go out for? That's what we had to develop because so much road opportunities started coming our way, and I know it's the same for you guys because wherever we go, we always see like you're coming or you've been there.
Sure.
We're all running the same circles. Most of us podcasters at this point. So for us, we had to figure out you can't just throw it especially in a show like Jay and Bob Get Old, which was so based on his experience and memory. Jason Mewes, you can't just burn it. You can't just suddenly do the show you got a huge offer to do the show here and you got a tiny offer to do the show here because he's not unlimited resources.
Right.
Sooner or later that well will be tapped.
He's going to run out of memories.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be like, I've said everything
I'm out.
that's ever happened to me.
He's going to start reminiscing about the first few episodes. Remember when I told the story of
you were setting up a microphone and somebody pressed record and this all began.
Jay and Silent Bob Get Old gets old.
They're like that joke just suddenly made a lot more sense. But it's at that point you have to start being more picky and choosy, and we had to figure out a math metric to apply to every show, whether it be to Babylon, to Get Old, this Modcast, +1, whichever show has to go out on the road and stuff. So we had to figure out the minimum that would go out for. Did you guys do that yet?
No, we didn't because we were more in and we're still in the building process.
No, you guys aren't fucking building, Hardwick.
No, we are. We still are.
I know. I'm on the other hill going, oh, there they are. We have neighbors.
I've only just started not losing money on these shows because the way that we were able to convince promoters to book a podcast last year was almost zero guarantee. And we would at a certain point we'd get a percentage of the door or whatever. But what was happening is it's expensive to get 3 people to a place.
That's right.
And
you guys guys have a small army.
You go into these venues and it's like there's a number that it costs just to turn the lights of the venue on.
Of course.
Then on top of that, you have all your travel expenses. So for the first several months of doing these shows, I was losing money, but I didn't care because I just felt like, well, we're building a thing, and sooner or later, enough people come out and it'll be okay. And we're literally just starting to get to that point where it's like, yay, I'm not losing money anymore. It was like thousands of dollars a show.
I was the same way with you when I made the trend. We were talking right before we went about the podcast thing came about multi-pronged reason, but one of the reasons, first and foremost, me and Moshe weren't hanging out anymore and doing this.
Yeah. Just
sitting around and bullshit and being like, imagine this, or what about this, or making fun of this, or like, hey man, did you watch Godfather, and just getting way the fuck into it or something like that. So I said, they're doing these podcasts, like Ricky Gervais, somebody says has a podcast, and the way it was described to me was, It's like a commentary track without a movie. I was like, shit, we can do that. Let's sit down and do it, and we'll put it up once a week. And he was like, well, why do we make it public? And I said, if we make it public, then we'll be dialed into having to do it. There'll be an expectation. People will be like, where's the next one and stuff? Because otherwise, like everything in life, you get a good idea, you sit down, do it once or twice, and it just kind of drifts away like fucking Frankenstein on a nice flow and shit. So I wanted to make sure that it was always a very Mary Shelley evocative. I wanted to make sure that it was always going to be kind of like something we had to do, like forced playtime or something like that. So it came from there. And if you listen to the early Smods, he talks about, like Mosier will talk, it's like, I could never do this in front of people. I couldn't get on a stage, like us in a room together, totally. But he's like, this is where it ends, and this will never be a business or anything like that. And then I think about maybe it was 3 years into it. We've been doing it for like 3 years on and off. We'd take breaks when we did the movies and shit like that. But about 3 years into it, after like the economic downturn, Mosier was just like, I got to get a job pretty damn quick, and I got to make some money for something. There's something going on with the house. And I was just like, well, you know what we could do, dude? We've done Smodcast Live once for charity in Brantford, Ontario, up for Walter Gretzky's street hockey tournament. Wayne Gretzky's dad has a street hockey tournament. We performed it live there. It was like 1,000 people and shit, and he lit up. He was on fire in front of people. The guy that I'd sat in front of in a room who made me laugh and shit, suddenly in front of people took on a different dynamic, because you know what it's like. You sit in the room, the show has a completely different vibe than when you do it in front of people.
Of course.
In the room, you can just fucking roll with the stupidest shit for an hour that you would never do live, because people be like, move on, or like, this is funny to only you. But it's like, if you
as a group in unison, they all say it at the same time.
Totally. But if you stick in that vein for a while, if you mind that vein of comedy, golden shit will happen, you know. But it's just in a live room, you hit this wall of people going, nothing golden's happening right now, and immediately you drop and move to something that will work. So the live shows versus the home shows became like two different dynamics, and they were kind of exciting, like but separate but equal, like the Shining book versus the Shining movie, where you're like, both good, I'll take them both, man. You know, one doesn't have the hedge animals, well, what the fuck? It has Jack Nicholson.
Right.
Like, one had its benefits over the other. So we'd done it once. I said, let's take it out on tour, man. Like, I'd just come off the bus thing. It was all tied into the fucking Southwest. I wasn't on the plane, so I was like, I'm going to take a bus to some Q&As I had. I was alone on a Q&A bus, and I was like, this is stupid, man. Imagine if I had some friends with me and shit. Like, we could go out and podcast maybe. So I asked Mosier, because we'd been doing it a bunch, and that was it. It was that, and maybe Tell 'em Steve Dave had just started around that time. So I said, do you want to go out on tour with the podcast? We could probably make like 10, 20 grand if we do like 6 gigs, 7 gigs. Do a week out on the road, jump on a bus, drive around, and just fucking talk in front of people. And he was like, all right, let's give it a shot. And we booked these gigs, and mostly small places like punk clubs and shit, like the Peabody in Cleveland, I think it is, and in York, Pennsylvania. Like, the first list of Smodcast tour dates just reads like Little House on the Prairie. All these weird places where people left from for a gold rush or something like that. Way out. The only one that's kind of like remotely, was San Francisco, and that one was in a movie theater. And suddenly we were like, yeah, it's possible to do this shit in a fucking movie theater. Suddenly you realized, as you sat there, and we were doing like 2 shows a night, and each show, of course, is different. We don't just do one show and repeat it. So you do a 7 and 9 of 2 full 2-hour conversations about completely different shit. And you're training like a fucking ninja. Like, all this time you sit around talking to your friends, it's just like a montage in Kill Bill. You're just fucking learning, and you're backlit with Wope or whatever his name was. You're constantly figuring out what works, what doesn't. Suddenly you're learning how to have a conversation in front of people. You come from like world of comedy and whatnot. Most people stand up there by themselves and face a fucking crowd. Suddenly, like, you don't have to stand there by yourself. You don't have to stand. You can fucking sit there and talk to somebody else, and that fucking counts. And it was exciting. I could never do stand-up comedy. I don't have enough confidence to stand up in front of a mic. Did it once. Went to Rascals in like New Jersey when I was about 19, 20. I had an open mic night. Didn't even tell my fucking friends, because I knew they'd be like, you're fucking gay, you know, for dreaming. So I never wanted to share that with them. So I just went by myself and shit and tried it out. And I was so terrified. Like, I was like, I'm a fat man. I can't deal with this kind of rejection on a regular basis. Like, some shit got a laugh, some shit doesn't. So I was like, this ain't my way. This will never be my fucking path. So when the film shit happened and Harvey Weinstein said, go out and talk in front of the movies, suddenly I got to go stand in front of the movies and do a de facto stand up without the risk of, all right, fucking make us laugh, because people aren't there to laugh. They're generally there to watch a film. So if they're there to hear a Q&A that's austere and fucking, this is what I saw in the vision and blah, 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 and suddenly you're the guy that's like, that cat, we got him to shit on cue by keeping him off camera for 2 fucking days. Wouldn't let him poop. You know, and people are like, oh, this is fucking funnier than the fucking staid Q&A about the Nicole Kidman movie. So suddenly you start building on that. And I've been doing that for years, and now I've been standing by myself, and now I got to sit there with Moj and just have a funny conversation. And rather than be the dude he was afraid of, where he'd like clam up, I could never talk in front of people, he just fucking turned it on, man. He became a different beast altogether, fed off the audience. It was amazing. Sitting with somebody you've known your whole life, and suddenly you find that they got a fire in their belly that they didn't even know, and they'd never cop to, but suddenly are like, you got it, bitch. You got it too, man. You think it's me, but it's you. And it was wonderful. So we did that tour, and at the end of it, I had told him, we'll make 10 to 20 grand. So I wanted to make sure he made 10 grand.
Yeah.
And Moj made 10 grand from those 5 days.
Smith did not make 10 grand.
Not at all. And my financial person was like, you can't do this business anymore. And I was like, you're wrong. I was like, we had to do this. We have to come in, you know, on bended knee and hand out and hat in hand and shit, and do it as inexpensively as possible and kind of build it, because the next time it's going to be way easier to watch. And the next round of shows, man, we were able to juice up the price because word gets out immediately. Like, this show's fucking tight, man. Like, you go and spend 2 hours and you will fucking laugh and blah, blah, blah. So the word gets out within the clubs. You know that, man. If you're in a place that's remotely franchised, they start talking to one another, going like, come here, bring that thing here. We don't know what it is. Just like you said, man, you spend all that time going, it's a live podcast. They're like, what's that? And you're like, it's no different, man. I wish I'd never said live podcast, just said it's a comedy show.
Well, because, I mean, I think it helps, though, to sort of let people know what it is, because I've found that, you know, when I was touring a lot alone, I was like, well, why am I not touring the podcast? We're all stand-ups. We can do stand-up at the beginning of the show, then we can do a panel afterwards. Right. You know, I could do our roundtable chat and then answer questions. And so it just seems like it's a little bit more motivating than for people to go, I'm going to leave my house to go see a guy. Yeah. Like, there are some guys, you know, like people will leave their house to go see Louis C.K., you know, there's a handful of people.
back in the day.
Yes,
Chris
of course.
Rock or something
Absolutely.
like that.
But to just be a guy doing comedy is like, it's not quite motivating enough unless you're in that upper tier.
Did you do it? Did you hardcore? Did all of you guys still do it, right? Do you do stand-up solo?
Yeah.
Do you do stand-up solo?
Yeah, for a while.
Do you do solo anymore?
I
or
do.
Did you back in the day?
I did. I toured pretty hardcore for a while. I mean, just, you know, like...
Just before you went, hey, man, Nerdist. Like, when did you go, hey, Nerdist?
It wasn't until the idea of touring the podcast didn't happen until like last year.
Well, I just mean in general, when you were just like, hey, I'm gonna sit down and talk to these dudes every week. I'm gonna start this.
Oh, that was February of 2010. January. Well, our first episode went up in February, yeah, but in January of 2010, I called them and said, let's do a podcast. Because I'm tired of having the entertainment business have its foot in my nuts.
Well, we just worked on a pilot that like had a lot of promise.
Yeah,
What was it?
It was a pilot. They were going to redo the E channel was going to redo the Daily 10, but make it more editorial. Like, they wanted to add like an Oberman style vibe to it and make it funny and editorial rather than just sort of regurgitating the stuff from E News. And that was kind of outside the sphere of things that I was really into, but I was like, you know what, though? The money's amazing, and I'll be on TV every day, and it'll help people come out to shows, which is really what I want. That was the aim. I just need people to come out to see shows, so maybe if I can be funny on this show every day, I can convince people, you know, like I can hammer them enough to come and see me at the shows. And then at the last minute, you know, after like 5 months of working on the pilot and redoing it and giving the network what they wanted, they decided not to do the show. And so like 2 days I was upset, because I just saw this whole opportunity just like, what am I going to do now?
Crumbling, yeah.
So
we
I just
invested our time. And
yeah. And so I just called these guys and I was like, fuck it, I'm done. Let's do a podcast. I'm tired of waiting for a network to tell me that I can be on television or do a thing. I'm just going to fucking do this. If it does nothing else but just make me have fun once a week, then it's worth it because it'll put me in a better headspace for everything else. And then I responded
with, I'm sorry, who's this?
Jonah, it's Chris.
Oh, from work. Okay.
No, Jonah, we've been friends for like 10 years.
From friend work?
I bought you your first beer.
Ah, yes, you did. Well, my first legal beer.
Your first legal beer when Jonah turned 21.
Podcast. I just would have heard, "Hey, friends, together, free."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Fuck." You don't want that call. The call you want is, "Hey, friends, together, sick money."
It's crazy
money. Do you remember
those calls don't
when
come
you
in
guys
that
sat down? Do you remember where were you for the first one?
Tom Lennon's house. It was Super Bowl Sunday. It could but none of us watch
You
football.
say like, who's Tom Lennon?
Tom Lennon from Reno 911. Tom.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, and so Tom, we went to Tom's house, and he has this office in the back. He has a beautiful craftsman house and a little garage office type thing. And I bought I spent like $1,200 buying recording equipment and got all these microphones that we abandoned after a couple months. And
they got stolen out of my car.
They did get stolen out of your car. And yeah, they were abandoned by
You
theft.
can see this is the TV movie is taking shape. Man. You can see it.
It's already stopped using them though.
I feel like it's a TBS TV
Welcome
movie.
to Thiefcast. That's where those mics ended up. There's some sort of a burglar podcast.
There's a burglar
that's
fucking
booming.
podcast with a size 54 jeans that I just bought.
All right. Oh my God. Oh, we're
Some
totally
guy's
gonna.
like, this is the greatest score of my life. Mics and the right size pants.
We can narrow this down Richard Kimball style, just like single joint arm, fake arms. We're gonna fucking narrow this down.
Double hipped man.
Yes.
Two pairs.
Double hipped.
I saw a double hipped man stealing the mic.
Oh sure, a double hipped man
right.
stole your microphone. How could he even get up the stairs?
A double hipped man in Los Angeles. You're out of your
I
mind.
didn't steal the pants. I don't care.
You're a double hipped man. You do security for a lot of the top food
Johnny
companies.
just did the fucking tunnel scene. That was amazing. You summed it up in 2 lines, man.
I don't care.
I don't care.
Yeah, so we did it at Tom's house, and
And it was post Super Bowl?
it was during the Super Bowl.
Perfect.
And we,
Appropriate.
we just fucked around and had fun, and it just didn't feel like a real thing because no one was ordering us to do it. And it, I think some of the most amazing, magical things that happen in life don't feel like anything because they feel effortless. And so a lot of times you'll finish and go, I didn't do anything. And
You're not having sex right.
No, shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I don't know if you know what the orgasm is,
No,
Chris,
but
but there's a conclusion to all good things.
What?
It happens. It's sticky.
You're supposed to finish before you get it in, right? I loved your tweet. Your tweet the other day, which almost was a little too inside the Smith household. It was like, "Yay, it's Tuesday! I get to have sex."
I'd been away for a little while, and before I left, at that point, I was really gone like 2 days. And before I left, I had the opportunity to fuck, and then passed up on it for something like really stupid, like Twitter. Like, I'm busy. I have to put this tweet up. If I don't put this tweet up about the shows, they won't know about the shows.
Now I'm curious. Did that tweet make you come, or did that not make you come?
It didn't. It didn't. And she went to sleep, and I had to fuck a Fleshlight. So at the end of the day, I'm like, all right, I helped further my empire, but at what a price.
So what, were you just angrily masturbating with a Fleshlight? Like, I fucking hate you, Fleshlight. Why did we get
I hate my ambition and drive. I'm gonna pour it into this piece of plastic.
I once put a fleshlight into some girl's vagina and then just fucked it that way. It's,
She's just so confused.
Yeah, I was very confused.
I put it into another man because that's totally. It was
It's not-
because it
it's
is a
not-
vagina.
Yeah,
it's a
okay.
fake
You're like, it's not
vagina.
gay, man. If you put this in your ass, it's totally not
it's
gay.
There's
totally-
your loophole.
Yeah.
Closeted homosexuals.
There it is. There
And
it
then you
is.
admit at the end, I croaked out the bottom. You're like,
Oh, you got me. Now I'm gay.
There's your
clause.
loophole.
now I'm
That sure was a Fleshlight. I never put it in. I've always been fascinated by the Fleshlight, but I can honestly say I've never actually
dope.
It's dope.
I mean, I don't even work for them anymore. There was a while where they were our first sponsor. Like at one point, we were same thing with you. We were thousands of dollars in debt. Years later, I figured out, oh shit, this is free for everybody but me.
Yes.
That's what I heard. Like the podcast would climb the charts. But this is amazing, man. This is awesome. Everyone's getting it free. What a great deal. And then somebody was just like, hey man, have you looked at the latest bills? You're cresting $10,000, $11,000 a month. And I was like, for what? Like server fees. I was like, what's that? And somebody had to explain it. And I was like, oh my God, it's not free.
It seems free. That happened to Corolla too.
He said the same thing. He was just like, he went from radio to the pod thing, and he launched his pod.
Yeah.
Week 1,
Yeah.
he had like a $10,000 bill because he just carried his
Yeah,
audience
he just told
from
everyone to
radio.
come on over.
Yeah, and-
We slowly got there because in the beginning it was just, hey, people from the View Askew message board or Twitter were listening or something like that, because I think it was like just when I started getting involved with Twitter. And then slowly it crept up to like a number where suddenly when they handed me a bill, like Carol, the woman who runs all the finances in my life, was just like, what's going to cover this? And I was like, I don't know. Let me think about it. And then I turned to Motion.
Fleshlights to the rescue.
Do something. And he was like, you know how to make money, don't you? So I figured out, I was like, I thought back to old TV. An old TV would pick like one sponsor to fucking do the whole thing, and I was like, let's go after like a Geritol, but not Geritol.
I Love Lucy is brought to you by Wesson Oil.
The Texaco Comedy Hour.
Yes, the Texaco Star Theater, man. I was like, you got a big dick like Uncle Milty. We can fucking get some Texaco back and some of that Texas money. So nobody, of course, we were like, who do you go out to? You can't go out to like fucking Wonder Bread. You can't go out to Gerber or something like that because we talk about weird shit. Now, I remembered I'd gotten this email.
Like baby sandwiches.
Yes.
You can't get either of those. You ruined both of those.
For kids. And people are just like, what are you talking about? In the recent episode, you talked about what if Hitler had a baby and ate Vienna sausages with it. I was like, that's why it's the perfect episode for your commercial.
We just lost Wonder Bread.
Yeah, they're gone. So we were trying to figure out where to go. I got this email on Zach and Miri, and this dude was like, hey, man, thanks for the shout out in the movie. It gave us a big thrill, and we thought it was funny. If you guys want to do a branded edition for, when the video comes out, let us know. Love, Fleshlight. And, I sent it to the Weinstein Company. I was like, hey, man, like, they'll make Fleshlights for the video release. And, of course, nobody did anything with it. And it just fucking died in a pile. So years later, when I'm sitting there going, where will we get financing? Who would sponsor the show? I said, what if we reached out to Fleshlight? They seem to like the Zach and Miri thing. Let's hit them up. We hit them up and came up with like a ridiculous, not even like, here's the metrics of how much each episode would cost or something like.
Boy,
just give me a number that'll cover.
Doesn't that just distill into regular life? You're also courting fake vaginas.
Yeah, it never ends, man.
Never ends.
It was eye opening though, and that money really fucking made everything easier. That took care of the bills.
So you're not paying for bandwidth anymore, are you? You're with, because we're on Libsyn, and Libsyn is great.
Yeah, they're great, but you still got to pay for bandwidth.
You have to pay for bandwidth, just not $10,000 a month.
No, it's not ridiculous like other places have been. They're very good, and also you could keep your track of shit like way better than you could on other servers. Like keep your metrics. They're pretty much designed. The one we use, you use Wizard Media.
Yes,
these
Libsyn.
cats
Yeah,
are just fucking built. If you're a podcaster and you're serious about it, you want to be Libsyn, Wizard Media. These
because
they'll let you know how many people are downloading, listening, all the important shit you'll need later on for business.
and you have to be careful because some of the smaller companies may not be able to sustain,
Right.
and you don't want to be in a situation where your podcast host is like, well, we're shutting all of our servers down and you're about to lose everything.
Yeah, everything's gone, guys.
So the fleshlights save the day.
Fleshlight saved the day, man. Suddenly, that was the first like advertising backing sponsorship deal we had, and we threw an arbitrary number out there. We went for it's 52 weeks in a year. Let's just say $60,000. That'll cover all the server costs, and it'll cover maybe a little bit extra in terms of like we had Ken Plume on the payroll to put them up online and stuff and mix them when they were done, make sure they didn't sound crappy. So that was that first year with Fleshlight, man, and we put them on everything. Put them on the cartoons, we put them on the road show and stuff. Gave them out like crazy. They provided content. We talked about Fleshlights from now until the end of time, and not even just to advertise them, just because this feels so fucking good to come and rub her. Like it was just amazing. It was like finding Jesus after being like an alcoholic who beats people and killed somebody. Suddenly, you're like, I found the thing that's my salvation. I'm gonna come in this.
I mean, I don't see any reason to not vagify all of our appliances.
I agree.
Like the Flesh Wrench or the
be a
Flesh
hole in
Wave or the. There should be.
My father used to say.
How do you measure fleshlight intensity? Is it flesh lumens? Is that how they measure fleshlight intensity?
There's a Geiger counter, man, when you put it in.
I've always been curious about it, but I still haven't hopped on the old fleshlight.
It's worth it. It started as kind of like let's see if they'll advertise for us, and they sent us a box.
Let's see if they'll send us a box to.
They will, man.
Well, they'll send you
Let's send you 12 boxes. Yes!
Yes!
Yay! We went for the same joke. Because it was a lowest common denominator.
No, I thought it was a pretty smart vagina joke.
Pretty smart. If there's anything that sums up the Nerdist podcast, that's a pretty smart vagina joke.
Yeah.
It's pretty much how our podcast
It's
rolls.
actually going to be the name of your autobiography at the
Pretty
end of your
smart
life.
vagina
Pretty
joke.
smart vagina
This
joke.
is the name of my high school band, man.
I think a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, too, if I'm not mistaken, is in your book, Tough Shit.
Tough Shit. Yeah, I talked about that in Tough Shit.
Which Matt Myra read and loved.
I read in 3 I've never read a book that fast. I read it in 3 days.
It's pretty easy read though.
Yeah. No, I mean
that could be like an insult.
Yeah, it was a little small. I was outraged with him. I was like, come on, you know how many calories I'm gonna burn trying to read this tiny print? Make it big and easy for me.
But Kevin Smith, you're the thing that I enjoy about you is that you sort of have this. I mean, you know, your personality is like, whatever, we're just fucking around. But it's like,
is that how you see me, Hardwick?
No,
like,
but even
here's
when
my impression of Kevin Smith. Whatever, we're fucking around.
But when you say like, oh, it's just us hanging out, but you have a very like your success is driven by the fact that you have a very specific. I mean, like you connect ideas, and
I'm
you
a reverse mullet, sir. I'm party in the front, all business in the back. The hair comes down over my eyes, but in the back, I got an MBA.
But you figured out all this stuff more than you know.
You got to figure out how to play. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to work. I fucking worked in the movie business. That was amazing. Like, I got lucky at an early age and shit. And the notion of like, oh man, if I stay in just film, diminishing returns, you get hunted down. It's like that fucking line in Dark Knight, man. Like where he's just like, you either die a hero, or you live long enough to become the villain. It doesn't matter who you are, dude. You can make The Godfather, and then you make one movie motherfuckers don't like. They're like, he's a piece of shit.
Godfather 3.
He's the worst person ever.
But, yeah, they'll come after you big time. And I was like, I don't know. That just doesn't foster creativity.
Well, the other problem too is with film, it's
expensive too.
Not only is it expensive, but it's not like you can immediately release another film to make up for the last one. It's like, oh, it's gonna be another 2 years before I
like, oh my god,
try to make
so
up
much time into that. With the podcast, like you know it. You do it 3 times a week. Of the 3, one will be your fave, but the other 2 won't suck. They'll still be amazing. And it didn't take you nearly the amount of time that would have taken you to do almost any other sort of production.
Podcast is the closest thing to stand-up as possible. So when people say, well, just in terms of like, you know, the how you can craft it however you want and how often you can, like when people start out doing stand-up and I go, just do as many shows a month as possible, because if you only do 1 show a month and it's not good, you're going to think you failed.
Right.
But if you do 30 shows, some of them will be good, some will be bad.
Percentage.
Yeah, but like, you know, the movie like John Carter, like the second all that shit went down, they must have been like, do over. Like, you can't now.
They don't have any fucking like, well, if you do this, it'll make it better. They're like, the only thing that's going to make this better is if all of America went to see this movie tonight.
Like all of a sudden.
That's never going to happen. So forget it. John Carter couldn't save Mars. He couldn't save himself.
I mean,
Did you guys see it?
I did not see. I did not see
That's
it.
the fucking problem. A show called The Nerdist.
Yeah.
And nobody went to see John Carter. I didn't go see it either.
For
I
me,
didn't give
it's
a fuck.
for me, it's more about.
It didn't look like
90?
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems so old timey.
For me, it's more about the title was weird.
It's just like John Carter, fucking Jimmy Carter's brother, the biopic of a less famous presidential brother.
Yeah, like Kumail was like joking around about that. He's like, why didn't you call it like the Mars Civil War or something more interesting, like giant crazy monsters?
Yes.
To pick the most boring thing you can out of it.
Yeah,
Martian
exactly.
fuckers from space.
They don't call porns like pizza delivery. They tell you exactly.
I went porn shopping the other day. When was the last time you went porn shopping?
I haven't. I mean,
shop? You still shop?
I browse Fry's porn section every once in a while. I'll just go.
Fry's has a porn section.
Has a fucking porn section.
That's how desperate like the times are. Where Fry's like, we're a family company, but here's a flick.
No, you just watch.
This will keep your family
Well, they
together.
do anything. Listen, if you were in a fucking, if there was a zombie apocalypse, Fry's is where you would want to be.
They've got it all.
every like the
you got
appliances,
porn, milk,
yeah.
Fry's is
USB
where,
cords.
Fry's is where Station goes to make the good robot. Fucking Fry's is the shit. You walk past the Blu-rays and you see black bars covering DVDs, and it says 18 up. So of course I'm gonna look.
I had no idea.
There's a comedy show. There's a comedy show in a porn store on Santa Monica, and like that was like
The Pleasure Chest.
Yeah, the Pleasure Chest.
Who does the show there?
It's what's his name? This is embarrassing.
Olsberg?
Eli Olsberg and T.J. Miller do it, and then
And what, do they talk sex, or they just talk?
No, it's like just a stand-up show,
And it's
it just
really
happens to
fun.
be- it's
At
a lot
that
of
place.
fun, and it's like it's great because it's just fodder everywhere. It's like
they love.
the whole setting and everything. There's beers but like it's weird because I was like I don't remember the last time I was in a porn store, and I just kind of like went around as an adult. Now I remember the last time I went to a porn store was when I wasn't allowed to go to a porn store. I was like 17 and I snuck in. I remember I wanted to look like a creep, so I wore a jacket without and no shirt underneath it. I was like, "That's the thing that
wanted-
creep
Wait,
You
look like a
wanted to
creep?
look like a creep?
Yeah, because I was like, that'll make me look older, like a guy that like,
No one will
always
fuck with you.
goes. Yeah, no one will fuck with the weird guy just wearing
we
like,
gotta-
Fucking when Batman went to town for the first time without the cape, and and he just puts on the scar and the sailor cap and walks in and with his hands in his pockets and shit. You're playing a role, man.
And then they were just like, we got a shirtless kid in fake
like,
fists.
Clearly, there's no
kid.
chest hair or anything like that. But yeah, I wore a windbreaker with no shirt underneath, and I was like, ugh, like looking through so they wouldn't kick me out.
Doing a comedy show in a porn store, I imagine it would be akin to like one of those boards on Angry Birds where everything you have to hit is made of glass. It's just feel like this is gonna be easy, man. Shooting pigs and glass and shit. Oh, I did. I went shopping for porn. I literally had to look through titles and shit.
What do you go for? What do you go for?
It's not what I go for. That's the
what
thing.
the lady
I gotta
goes for.
find out what she goes for. Because one time I made the mistake of bringing home like fucking spit in the hand, rubbing cock type porn, and she was like, "Turn this off." And I didn't get laid for like a month. I was like, "I swear I'm into that. I didn't know it was gonna be on the tape. It was a little rough. I'm sorry." So
Why is he pulling her hair? That seems so disrespectful.
Totally. Oh my gosh, she don't go for those shenanigans. So I had to go in, and it's been a while since I looked for porn, bought porn. I mean, I watch everything on fucking line in little 10-second clips, get my business done. So I went in there going for like, I said, I literally never want help, but I literally was like, I've looked everywhere, finally needed help, and asked the woman, I was just like, hi, I'm looking for the adult films made by the ladies. And she looks at me like, there they are, because there was a ton. I was like, no, not made with ladies in it. Like I'm sorry. And she's like, what do you mean adult
Female
film?
directors. That's
what I was trying to express. And she didn't even get the adult film part. And I was just like, the fuck movie with women. Like I couldn't spit it out. I was so,
do you have any of those Jane Campion adult films?
You have something like The Piano, but with dicks in it.
Yeah.
So finally,
one more dicks.
yeah, just a few more than
Less
Harvey
Keitel.
With full
I finally
penetration?
figured out what it was. Like I'm literally trying to express something that I don't think has existed in a while. Because when I worked at a video store, and this is back before Clerks, there was a brand of porn made by women for women called Candida Royale.
Okay.
So I'm sitting there going, hey man, do you have Candida Royale? And the chick who looks like she's like 20 something was just like, as if I had asked her, like, do you remember that episode of Mork and Mindy when Jonathan Winters was born as the baby? And she's just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I felt old. It made me feel aged. And finally I had to settle on some Andrew Blake stuff. Is a little classier. She just wants to see like fucking chicks eating pussy. That's it, man.
No dudes in there at all?
No, she got a dude. She hates dudes. I'm shocked she even married a man. I must be a beard. I know sooner or later she's going to come out and be like, I've never liked dudes. I love pussy. He's a beard. And I'd be like, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
I just thought of your dick is a big clit.
yeah, I thought it was. You fucking fool.
I mean, it really is now that we're talking about it.
Can't blame him.
It really is. A penis is a large clitoris. Yeah. If you really
stimulated.
Which I've started referring to the clitoris as Rowan Atkinson. I said that in an interview because I couldn't say clit. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, Mr. Bean. Like I had to slide it in there. Like, let's find Rowan Atkinson.
Really
Where has he
I
gone?
thought you meant Johnny English.
Also works for the dudes.
Yeah,
also works for the dudes.
Also, you can get back in that Black Adder.
Holy crap.
And that's a whole separate demographic right there.
Exactly.
Rowan Atkinson has a title for any sexual thing you want to put in someone.
And you make the same noise when you touch it.
3 jokes in a row that nobody would have made 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Nowhere in the world. It's only when you put a microphone in front of enough people that sooner or later it aggregates into Rowan Atkinson's Black Adder as a
Conversations that would have never happened. There's got to be some shards.
So you know how they always used to say, like, oh, my ears are ringing. Somebody must be talking about me. Everyone's ears must ring constantly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because the amount of podcasting going on, like the amount of time you have to fill, you wind up talking about 86 motherfuckers in a podcast.
Do you think there's a bubble? A podcast bubble?
I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, everyone likes to everyone wants to be heard. This is what I think. Like, people want food, fucking, and to be heard. And the first two are fairly easy to put together. The third one is a lot tougher. Yeah. But now that there's something like this where people can be heard, like, think about it, man. We were kids, you'd listen to a radio, watch TV, and that was it. You were a passive participant. Now you can make it. You can literally make radio for yourself. And it could turn into something else, like TV, if you're lucky or something. The idea to be able to sit down in front of a mic, share, open up your heart, listen to other motherfuckers, laugh about goofy shit nobody cares about. Put it up and then fucking see reaction to it. Like, nothing makes me happier in life now. Nothing. Maybe coming. But beyond coming, maybe second under that is looking on Twitter and seeing someone just pull lines from the fucking podcast. It makes me feel like fucking a rock star, dude. Like, makes you feel like George Carlin or Richard Pryor. Like, they're literally shouting out lines from a routine you just did the other day. And you know you're never going to remember that routine because the next day you're going to do fucking another hour or two of something new. It's incredible. Great time to be creative and a great time for anyone to try it out. And in a world where people just want to be heard, this is the best and cheapest fucking way to do it. For years, I would tell people, like, go make a movie. That costs money, man. This doesn't cost. Everybody got a fucking laptop. Anybody could do this. And we're all interesting little content generators.
I mean, it is funny. It was only a matter of time before someone would go, are there, it's like, podcasting is great. Podcasting is great. Are there too many podcasts? And you're like, because we're making a ton. Like, we'll probably have 20 shows on our network by the end of the year. And
but that's like saying, like, are there too many bands? Like,
right.
No, because
Exactly.
it's like there's always going to be a ton of bands, but the ones that are good are going to be heard.
Or are there too many movies? It's like, hey, man, if some guy's fucking Dark Knight Returns is some guy's Joanna Man or something like that.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need a lot of different
I'm sorry,
flavors.
you just named 2 really good movies.
I put them by now.
I don't think that analogy works.
Joanna, man.
It's true, though. I don't know. I don't think there is a bubble. I think sooner or later, some motherfuckers in the media are going to put a cover story on it and shit.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of us are like, who's going to be the fucking face of podcasting? But I'm sure it'll just be a fucking microphone.
It'll probably be Marin.
I'd say Marin.
Marin seems to have absorbed the
He's
face
really
of
kind of become
podcasting.
that. Yeah, absolutely. But honestly, I care less. It's
It
just
really
nice
doesn't
to be
matter.
Part of that. It's nice to be part of something where it began. When I got into film had existed for years. I was just another spoke in a fucking wheel. Podcasting, we're all here at the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all there at ground zero. And the way they talk about old days of TV, they'll be talking about that shit in 20, 30 years. Like, oh, yeah, man, there was a time where these motherfuckers had 20 shows because you just realize everything's a show. Everything becomes very specific. You can just spin that off into its own interesting conversation that will find an audience. Thanks to, like, Twitter and the world of fucking on the internet, you just immediately throw it out there. And 50 fucking people to 100 people to 10,000 to 300,000 will eventually hear your fucking story of Gremlins and what you would have done to the Mogwai had you been in the movie. That's what it's all about.
The trick is to keep them on a plane so the time zone's always rotating, so it's technically never after midnight.
I never thought of
That's
that.
a fast plane, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
How can
the
you
other
get
thing.
anything going with a Mogwai in a fast plane?
I don't know. I didn't think
Mogwais
of it.
don't fucking 30,000 feet.
No.
They get scared. They're like,
Oh, shit.
they're always going out the window.
Well, you know what? Mogwai, too much responsibility.
Way too much. That's why they left him in Chinatown. There's like people like, I don't want this. This thing does it have a friend? Like, yeah, just get it with it.
Look at this old Chinese man. He is the only person capable of not feeding this thing. Americans are just going to stuff food in its mouth.
You must
forgets.
be a cruel man. He's like, nope, just a straight shooter.
This is how this
Thing is
shit
the
works.
Antichrist. That's why I keep it on a shelf in a store for the public to see.
Sure, it looks good.
Oh, this?
This old
Oh,
thing.
that cute thing? That'll bring forth the end of the world. So.
This is the only thing in the shop that's alive. Can I buy it? Much responsibility. Crap pants riggory.
It's like,
Oh, I don't want to change this thing. Fuck it. And the whole movie ends right.
and like I like how the guy thinks it's like, yeah, the door-to-door salesman, he's going to be the one with enough responsibility.
Like no one else had come in before
Yeah,
that
no,
guy?
No scientists.
Albert
no scholars.
Einstein walked in here once. I flat out said no. But you, with the Pelzer something,
The bathroom
egg
buddy.
cracker toothbrush,
The bathroom
you are the
buddy.
future.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy couldn't. That guy couldn't put a toothbrush on a fucking Swiss Army knife.
I'm surprised that dude had a child because it's like, how'd he put his dick in something? He seemed very confused and flustered at all times.
It's just like
This
how
show
the
just comes out
toothpaste
too soon.
misfired. Yeah, exactly. That was Hoyt Axton. Fucking Hoyt Axton. I always liked Hoyt
Axton,
Axton.
who you know, like you think about where you are in your career right now, where you began, how long you've been doing it. Sooner or later, we'll be Hoyt Axton's age, and you know, any one of us would be like, I'd suck a dick for one of those sweet Hoyt Axton rolls and Gremlins. We only have to be on the set for like 10 fucking days, a crucial part of it.
Yeah,
if
the
they make
beginning and the
more,
end.
you're in.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the
Do you
rest
ever-
is like fucking Phoebe Cates and the
Okay,
kid.
do you ever look at famous people, like, or people that were famous in the 70s, and then you think, like, they're still alive now, like, well, how are they making money? Like,
Yes.
because there's no, I mean, people were paid well in the 70s, but certainly nowhere near, you know,
it is
like what it
now,
is now. And so all that money would have been, like, what
You got to imagine all of them invested in real estate. Like that's where the money seemed to be. Like, or I don't know. Maybe there's a way that you could continue living off like your old accomplishments, really old.
They didn't, but like what happened to?
So I want to know how.
What about the guy on Simon and Simon who was not Gerald McCraney? Like, did he save his money? What's he doing? Is he alive?
Wait, Gerald McCraney was the one that married Delta Burke.
Yes.
And the other dude, fuck, good question.
What's that guy?
He was in Prince of Darkness.
Was he?
Yeah, he got something.
I wouldn't count Prince of Darkness. Well, Prince of Darkness was like, what, 88?
Yeah, it didn't do very well, but he got to lead in a movie. Like, that dude was like, one day I want to be an actor. And one day they were like, you're going to fucking lead a Simon and Simon. He's like, holy shit. And then one day they're like, you're going to be in a John Carpenter movie. He's like, what a big bucket of win. You can't expect it to always be like that. Sooner or later, there's a hole in the bucket and shit.
Yeah.
Time ran out for the other Simon.
Where's my win bucket? I left it somewhere.
They all make money by going to those weird autograph shows.
Yeah.
That are like...
All of them?
I think
That's
so.
good to know, man.
They go to the Hilton in
that
like...
reminds me, is anyone Catholic?
I was raised Catholic, but I'm no longer Catholic.
Like a purgatory, where they're like, look, if you sin and you're really bad, there's still like a get out of jail clause. The Lord could send you to purgatory, where you might be for 10,000 fucking years. It'll be worse than anything you dealt with in life, but you will eventually get to heaven. That feels like purgatory to me. They're like, look, you may be sailing to the end of like nobody gives a fuck about you anymore, but there's one last stop. And it's in Burbank at a hotel ballroom.
Simon and Simon Con this weekend.
Well, it's just they would get like it's those weird like periphery people that are just like did one episode of Star Trek and then they did like an I Dream of Jeannie guest spot.
Yeah. And then there's the people in the world that like they take it upon themselves to be the fans of the weird periphery people. And so then they're like, oh, I got all these things. You don't remember him? He had a guest spot in Mork and Mindy, you know.
Yeah.
Do you remember? You grow up out here?
No. I moved out to L.A. when I was 16.
Where'd you grow
up? Mostly Memphis, Denver, Florida.
What, were you an army brat?
No, my dad was a professional bowler.
He moved to a criminal. My dad was.
Might as well be. So
Yeah,
scores were criminal.
Now wait, where'd you guys grow up?
Hawaii.
Okay, where'd you grow up? Boston. So we didn't grow up seeing fucking famous people.
No.
Do you remember the first famous person you ever saw, like in real life? That wasn't on like a stage or fucking somewhere signing or something. Just like happenstance by. Like I was in fucking Florida when I was a kid, Orlando, with my family on a vacation at Disney World. We were on those water mouse little boats that around the Polynesian village. We get off the boat, we're walking down the dock, and coming toward us is Peter Marshall.
Oh yeah,
host of Hollywood Squares. I guess, at the time. And it was weird. He was a dude I'd seen on TV, and TV back then wasn't like TV now. It was like 4 fucking channels. So if you were on it, you were legendary already, even if you were just the host of Hollywood fucking Squares. Not even one of the squares, just the guy that said,
even the shittiest shows in the 70s had more viewers than like some of the most successful shows on television today.
So he walked past us, and I, of course I'm a kid. I'm just staring at him because he's fucking famous. And my old man does this like pimp move, which I like still to this day remember. He goes, "Hey Peter," and he goes, "Hello," and I was like, "You know Peter Marshall?" And my dad's like, "No, but he's just a guy." And I was like, "Oh wow!" But it's so weird that he like the familiarity is like, "Hello Peter," and it's because he'd been in our house like on TV and shit like.
And then Peter Marshall trips, and then a cyborg head rolls off. You're like, he was not a man at all. They're better than we
Peter
are.
Marshall's just like, how much for the little boy? And I was like, what, me? Dad, no.
Son, trust me.
I'm gonna put it in your Hollywood circle. Circle, not the square.
Oh,
That's my favorite story from the Smodcast is you in Disneyland or Disney World just taking stuff from fucking stores and your parents just being like, go for it.
Suborning fucking shoplifting. They're like, we're gonna send a check back to Disney when we get home. I was like, oh, what a great deal, man. It seemed like, as a person who'd been raised on Little Rascals, you see that episode Pay As You Exit, and you're like, well, I guess fucking that's what Disney's doing, man. We're gonna pay when we get home. They weren't paying.
They have that deferred payment program. I don't know why I had this weird flash that you're like, so I was at Disney World and the first famous person I ever saw, and then you said it was like Mickey Mouse, but for whatever reason you thought that was real. That was real. I was like, I saw Mickey Mouse, and like there he is. I mean, that's where you would go to see him. I mean, like he's right there.
And I walked away going, he's so fake.
What an
I don't
asshole.
even remember. I was because I would go to Star Trek conventions when I was like 7.
So
my mom would
first
take me to Star Trek conventions. No, because I would see them under the guise of a convention.
Okay, so who was the first one there, you think? Who did you want to see the most when you went to a Trek convention?
Jimmy Doohan. Scotty.
Really,
yeah.
Scotty?
Yeah.
That was why did you have a hard on for Scotty?
He was the funny one to me, and I just thought
that's awesome. You're like, bring me to that Star Trek comic.
He was the most avuncular of all of the
Yeah.
of the
Well, him
original
Definitely
crews.
chewed the
Yeah.
scenery
Yeah.
more than the rest.
Yeah, him and DeForest Kelly, I think, were my favorites.
My parents were friends with Foster Brooks when I was a
Oh
kid.
my God, man.
So
From the bowling circuit?
yeah, actually, 'cause there was this weird sort of
Wherever there's
crossover.
drinking.
Yeah, there was this weird sort of crossover because bowling was like a cool thing for people to do at one point. So a lot of celebrities bowled. So my dad was friends with like Glenn Campbell and like Foster Brooks and all these crazy famous people just from bowling. Like that, my dad was a professional bowler, and so they saw him on TV and they would bowl with him sometimes. And so it was I led a very atypical. Like we spent a lot of time in Vegas, and I saw. Even in my earliest memories of like seeing Johnny Carson and Joan Rivers perform at the Riviera or fucking Tony Orlando and Dawn or like just my parents would
What
take
were
me to
they
shows.
like? What
Your
was it?
list went downhill fast.
I also
You
saw
got to Tony Orlando.
I also
Wow.
saw Steve Martin live
So
in
what, with the
Vegas
arrow through the head
with the
back
arrow through the
then?
head
Cruel
doing
Shoes era?
King Tut.
Oh
It was
my Lord.
pre Cruel Shoes. It was between King Tut and Cruel Shoes.
Right on.
So the guitar came down and the little the Egyptian headdress came on and he did King Tut. And
For a kid, that would be fun, but a Tony Orlando and Dawn show, I'd imagine.
I was so fascinated by performing
Right.
in general and comedy and everything that I loved all of it.
and it was kind of like a variety show, I imagine.
It was a variety show.
Donnie and Marie.
Exactly. It's exactly what it was like. I wish I remembered more of the Johnny Carson show, but he did this hungover teacher bit. They were more like bits, and they were more like acted bits than necessarily him doing stand up.
Right. Doesn't it fucking blow your mind to think that probably the same amount of money he was paid to go to Vegas for is what you guys make to go to a club now?
No, really?
Absolutely. Do you know how much money they charged for acts back then?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, inflationary, yeah. If you were going to do adjusted dollars, granted, it'd be way different, but just.
Well, Gone with the Wind made $3 billion.
Exactly. An adjusted dollar. I'm tired about that. I'm so tired of hearing that. This motherfucker is like, yeah, my cock is adjusted, bitch, for inflation as well.
inflation.
It don't make sense.
Yeah, it was
Isn't it weird? You're part of something. You're all part of something, man. Something way big and whatnot. And people will be talking about you for years to come. People will be talking about you that you'll never even meet or know. And they'll come up to you fucking 20 years from now and be like, Vader pussy.
I don't.
And you'll be like, oh my God, I said that like once 20 years ago.
I
said it a few times.
I work that every time people are like, Nerdist, I'm like, Vader pussy.
It'll take your hand, Vader pussy. Well, I just want. I mean, I don't know. For me, all the stuff that we're building is just. I just want to make sure that I keep being able to work in things that I actually care about.
Right.
And since television doesn't always offer those opportunities, I feel like, well, I have to make them then so that I can always be lucky enough to work on the stuff that I care about.
It's a farm team. I didn't think of that. It didn't occur to me. And, I like to fancy myself a guy who knows where the puck's going to be, and some shit you don't see. It's so obvious it's right in front of you. All the shows that you spin out and you put up there have the potential to translate to another medium, as we're fast learning in the world of podcasting now. So suddenly you realize, shit, we're not just doing this thing that we enjoy, building this kind of network, making our own radio station, whatever you want to call it. It could also be a farm team for something else.
Sure.
And that's why, it's crazy. For a while, all the development money in this town went away. Used to be overall deals and shit.
Yeah.
You could set up at a studio, TV, shit. You sometimes set up an overall deal and never even get something fucking produced. For
Of
2
course.
years' time and
People
whatnot.
were locked into deals and you couldn't do anything else, but then your thing wasn't getting produced and then you were just off the market.
My friend, I had a friend who worked on Seinfeld. When Seinfeld was done, he got picked up for an overall deal for $9 million for 3 fucking years.
Mendo?
Whether he produced, whether he produced something or not, that always blew my mind. I was like, David, you're way more successful than me, and fucking I've been trying. He's just it's all luck and fucking timing and stuff. And we, luckily we got to create the Clerks cartoon off that. But yeah, that's shit like that blows your mind. They don't do that anymore at all. But what they're starting to do now is realize, as business starting to kind of wake up a little bit more, and people are like, all right, the world's not falling apart. There's a little more money here. Slowly, the economy comes back. This is a machine and a beast that needs to be fed regularly. So this town is always looking for what's next, what's happening, what's new. Well, let's try to turn that into a fucking show. So suddenly there's now development money out there for fucking people with podcast networks, man.
Sure.
You're in the midst of it right now with the Nerdist thing, where people are like, here, man, I'm going to break off a bunch for you. Go fucking do what you do, and let's see what happens with it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty exciting time, man. And it's within reach of anybody. It's you don't even have to be like, these cats are very funny and whatnot, but you don't even have to be funny to do an interesting podcast. Yeah, it helps to sit with somebody who's fucking funny, but anybody could do it. And suddenly you can wind up going from just chit chat with your friends to like literally opportunities in a world that you sit around watching. I like tell my kid all the time, she watches like iCarly. I'm like, that's great, enjoy it. But I'll be honest with you, man. This is one thing I learned in life. You could watch iCarly or you could write iCarly. If you write iCarly, you're fucking in charge, man. And when you write it, it doesn't have to just sit in a drawer and go nowhere. We know people in this world, man. We'll push and try to do it if you're really serious about it. Like, try it. Anything's fucking possible. Stop being entertained. Go out and be entertaining. We can all do it.
And if that doesn't work, you just take her to downtown Disney and be like, fill your pockets.
Yeah, it's like, take shit. Like my parents taught me. Corporations flow. Steal from them.
Weirdly, you learned a valuable lesson from that, which is
never open your own theme park without lots of security. Watch the little fat kids. I learned many lessons off of that. They're thieves. They can hide things in those many layers they wear.
That'd be funny if you were in the store, like stuffing stuff in your pockets. You look over and Peter Marshall's there, like, here, take this one, and like he's stuffing his pockets full of Mickey dolls.
And I see him go talk to my father. How much for that boy? Stop it, Peter Marshall.
I know you said no before, but there was a minute of hesitation where I was like, maybe.
I don't want this.
It's
Dad.
been 35 years I've come to collect.
Not with Peter Marshall, Dad.
It's Marshall Peter.
I never thought he'd come back, son. I'm sorry.
Oh, good Lord, man.
Well, Kevin Smith, we're at the end of our hour with you,
Pleasure,
but
sir.
it's always fun hanging out with you, and you know, on Talking Dead or podcasts or whatever, or your podcasts. You've done amazing stuff with the Smodcast Network, and
vice versa.
and-
I love what you guys are doing over here. It's nice to kind of be in the trenches with people that you're like, you know how it is in this business. You fucking tend to hate everybody. They're all evil pricks, and you're competitive with them and shit. But podcasting doesn't have that yet.
No,
Like,
it doesn't
even
have
though
it
it's
yet.
Like, and there, granted, there's some big A-list names in it and shit, but. Yeah, and I've run into a problem or two. I had a thing with Adam, and hopefully we settled and stuff. But generally speaking, there's no enmity because we're not all jockeying for the same positions. Like back in the day, you had like Robin Williams and 3 other dudes who were like right under Robin Williams who were like, fuck, man, Robin Williams is going to suck up all the work. Robin Williams gets the TV show and shit. But now there's room for everybody. Now there's room for like Corolla does exactly what he does. Mark does exactly what he does. You guys do what you do. Smodcast and Co. They do what they do and stuff. And everybody gets to coexist. And I've having been in film so long, I found no backbiting here.
it's just
world.
there's
I'm
too
sharing
much
this,
fucking
but
energy. Like it's
you just sit there going, why be negative when I could just record another podcast?
Do you know why? Especially because when you look at where we all are in our careers, we've had plenty of kind of getting fucked over in our paths, or a lot of failure, or a lot of like, oh God, I thought this was going to be the thing and that wasn't the thing. Number one, I think we're all just appreciative, and 2, we're happy because we're doing stuff that we love.
Yes.
3, we're in the demographic of the thing that we're making,
Yes.
which means we really care about it and understand it.
True. Think about that. This is maybe the first
That's why
time
it's
in
difficult to
history.
engineer. It's why it's difficult for a company to come along and be like, well, we're going to make a podcast for our company. Like, it just
You don't get it.
it just kind of has to be a natural thing because people can detect when something's full of shit, and they will tell you.
They want authenticity. I'm not even saying they want integrity. They just want authenticity.
Right.
Like they just want to know that what they're investing their time in is real enough for them to invest their time in, man. Because they're like, I can waste my time any number of ways, so many different platforms. The Eye of Sauron's on you, motherfucker. Deliver right now or else. So, you got to be ready. You got to be ready to deliver at all times. Like, shoot.
The other thing, too, is that working in traditional media in the way that we all have, I feel like I've seen a lot of mistakes that traditional media has made that has led to its partial demise. I mean, for instance, I don't think television in general, like network television's probably not in any real danger anytime soon, but some of the lower end cable channels, as this sort of, with the YouTube initiative and Hulu and, like a lot of the digital companies, web companies are making content. And as soon as that seamlessly streams on your television set, like it's going to change.
Think about the network had a period where they had to readjust for cable, for like the emergence of not even 1,000 back in the day, 20 other channels that offered more or specialized. Like suddenly there was a channel where they didn't wait till Sunday to do sports. We're going to do sports 24/7.
Or what do you mean you can show tits on HBO? Why we can't show tits? What do you mean you can show tits?
Man. So suddenly cable
Dream on.
came in and made network kind of nervous and whatnot. But now network has never changed. Like in the time that I've been alive, they've added one more, really, maybe 2 if you count CW.
Right.
But
No one counts CW.
Well, you feel bad for him sometimes.
Bring back the WB.
There it is.
And
Split them up, goddamn. I want them
UPN.
segregated. WB and what was the other one?
UPN.
But the world of cable, man, now there's so many specialized channels, and they used to go in there without rating or metricing themselves, so they just exist. Like an IFC channel just used to exist because it was funded by somebody else. They didn't need advertiser dollars. But now even that channel gets rated as well, and they have to like deliver. Everybody's doing more original programming because it started happening, I guess, across all the cable operators for almost the same reason I think you were saying. The cable operators are like, we're going to start dropping these channels because nobody watches this anymore. Like
Right.
nobody watches. Like in the case of AMC, they're like, this is a channel that runs old movies. Guess what? Everyone's got these movies, and they have Netflix now, so nobody's going to tune into cable to watch Roadhouse yet again. They'll watch it on their own home device. So we're going to drop this channel. And AMC was like, oh, no, we need to do something to make ourselves relevant and make ourselves desirable. The reason that they want to stay on the channel. And boom, that's how Mad Men
Rubicon.
winds up
Oh, Mad Men, sorry.
And they're like, first we'll try Rubicon. Mad Men, it happens, and boom, suddenly they're relevant. Suddenly they get to stay on the cable operator. Now every channel is doing that. Is that me? Yeah, it was. Every channel seems to be doing that now. Every place I went in the last few weeks, like they tell you right up front, like, yeah, we get rated now. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? You guys as well? So it's become very competitive, and in the competitive kind of atmosphere, it's driven a lot of people to the fringes. And the fringes right now is this. The fringes is online, and people still kind of dismiss online as like, oh, it's just a computer. Like everybody has one, bitch. I bet you there are more fucking computers per household than TVs now.
Well, yeah.
It's a magic box. As soon as somebody fucking polishes Aladdin's lamp off and goes, holy shit, why were we trying with this? Like they'll realize they have something as viable as cable TV was back in the 70s, 80s.
People don't respect. This is sort of, I think, what part of the reason, or at least according to my dad, to tie it back to bowling, because why wouldn't I? It's part of the when people think something is too accessible or something they can do themselves, they take it for granted because they're like, well, that's not special. I can throw a ball at some pins. I could make a video in my bedroom. And the truth of the matter is, not everyone really can. It just seems like to make good content.
Everybody can. It just won't be as thrilling as what you've seen.
Exactly. But it'll change it because it's all sort of folding together. There's this weird sort of like continental platelet collision that's happening with television and digital and web content. So I mean,
We're
I say
creating mountains.
that we are.
That's what kind of place.
And you've been listening to 1,000 Reasons We're So Great.
Do we just jerk each other off for 67
But I
minutes?
think honestly, like when you read Twitter as much as I do, the audience loves that. The audience wants to know, how do we do what you do right now?
Right.
And the more they hear about it, the more you demystify it, the more you give them figures, numbers, show them the lines that connect and whatnot, then they can start following their own path. And
I like being
suddenly we get pushed out of the business.
I
What am
like being
doing?
positive.
Go away, kids.
I like being positive. I like being supportive, and
I like good entertainment, and it comes from like telling other people, do this. 'Cause
Well, I like supporting people that I care about, and I like saying like, "Hey, man, you're fucking doing a good job," because not everyone is always willing to do that, and it's
Yeah.
like, and this shit's hard enough that to not be, at each other. But there's a real weird thing in our culture now where people think that negativity is more real than positivity, and it's like, it's not more real. It's just it's of equal value.
It's
like
just more popular. And it's the sexy and it's the easy laugh. It's way easier to always kind of go for the cut than it is to go for look, you could be, doesn't mean you got to be serious. You could be funny but still be nice.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that's just like cynicism rocks, and that left over from kind of the 90s and held over through the 2000s. But
I just think this
don't know,
business is
positivity
fucking.
seems to be the new thing. When you think about it, as a new industry is created in entertainment, this podcasting thing, the tone's going to be set by people that are doing it. And I've not met any vicious assholes, and I think it has something to do with like what you said. You talk about a bunch of people who are used to being told no, getting close to the brass ring, and then being told like, nobody really cares about it. Sorry. Just being there, almost there, and then it falling apart. They're used to dealing with frustration, rejection. So when you go and create something new, you want to leave all that behind. You're going to create for yourself an insular little universe that takes all that ridiculous away, the rejection, the negativity. So I think a lot of people are doing that. We're just kind of building fortresses of, sounds ridiculous and sounds very like Tony Robbins, but little fortresses of positivity with inside, the walls of which we can accomplish things that we can't accomplish just telling everyone else. Because the world just wants to tell you no, man. They don't want to see you try. It's like a hockey game. They just want to hook you and pull you back. Don't let you get near net, because God forbid you do something that they could have done.
Sure.
But they didn't take the time because they were too busy sitting there just grousing about how you were doing anything.
Fuck you, Kevin.
That's exactly. Yeah, when if you're living in a shack and there's shit on the walls and you want to build a new shack, you're not going to go, well, let's put the shit up first. You know, you're like, let's just start over.
Yes.
Just make everything clean.
You're wasting your time with shit, man. It's just not. It's not gonna come about, man. You can't worry about what they're doing across the street ever. You got to worry about what's going on, like in your own backyard. And I've in movies for so long, it was always competitive. You're always just like, because there's a number you got to hit. There's a chart, a top 10 every Monday when the movie opens and stuff. So all these like you got to hit these certain levels and standards and shit. When they expect results, man, I'm not the guy. I'm like fucking. I don't deliver results. I deliver, not necessarily results. So I like going to some place where they get rid of shit like that. I mean, I enjoy the fact that iTunes charts and shit, but I'm just like, don't fucking make it competitive for some motherfuckers. Just let it be what it is. A bunch of people jumping out there and kind of talking. That's what I like about it. As many podcasts as I've been on, people I've spoken to, you never get the feeling that people are like, oh, I'm only in this for the money, or I fucking hate this, or I hate the audience, or I hate you. There's a real love for it, for lack of a better word, a real enjoyment, a real appreciation for like, I can't believe we get to sit around fucking mics and chit chat and stuff. And I think because of that, the world of podcasting and whatever springs from it, the various TV shows, movies, who knows what the future fucking holds. I think it'll be a more positive place than the fucking world it came from, because you are dealing with a bunch of cats who've been rejected time and time again. And they're just like, I'm tired, it hurts, and I just want to be someplace where the rejection don't exist. And there's no rejection in podcasting, because there's no like, you got to hit this fucking number. It's like, you see people like 50 people listen to my podcast. I'm astounded. And you see people going, 100,000 people listen. I'm astounded. There's no one bar. It's just like whatever you feel. If you're reaching out to 5 fucking people who get it, you're like, you feel like a king. You feel like fucking Shakespeare, Hamlet. Something like, well, Hamlet's a character. Shakespeare, fucking.
Well, no, Hamlet had a podcast.
He did. It was very good though.
Ham and Hamlets. It was great. We talked about ham and pork.
His father would come in, Mr. Piglet, and ruin everything.
Well, this was an excellent example of Enjoy Your Burrito, and we have enjoyed this one, Mr. Kevin Smith. You are hopefully Comic Man will come back next year, but also just with the Smodcast Network, and then also Tough Shit is the book.
The book's out. You get it now.
Read it. It's very good.
So
it's very good.
It's a little page
the first
turn.
couple, I will say, the first couple chapters are very inspirational.
Do they work?
They're very good. Yeah, first couple chapters are great.
I was told by somebody yesterday, like, you shouldn't have included the first chapter.
No,
it's
you
like,
shouldn't.
I almost didn't get past your dad's balls, and I was like, that's an important part of the story.
No, that's part. Yeah, that is absolutely.
And also, just
absolutely.
like I've always, in anything I've done, you can't just be like, this is for everybody. So you got to let them know who you are right up front, because you don't want them to get in halfway to the book and I'm like, by the way, I love to talk about cum, bitch. Here it comes. You want to give them right up front. So
and then
if
you keep reading, and you're rewarded with Bruce Willis being an asshole. Yes. It's fantastic.
If you can get past all that cum in the first chapter, there's nougaty goodness inside, man. It's good stuff.
Isn't that really just life, though? Get past the cum, and then the good stuff happens.
That's the story of my life. If you can get past the surface, I might have something interesting to say underneath. If you could just get past the surface, that's how I got with the high school girls.
That's why podcasts are like the fleshlights of our digital culture.
Just touch it for me.
Just a second.
I can do it, but just someone else do it once, please.
I'm tired of using my left hand or putting it in the freezer or applying press-on nails.
I use my left hand all the time.
What?
I'm a lefty.
Oh. Well, there you go.
You go for right to be weird. Like,
I
this
can't.
is the strange.
No, Matt.
It's like playing guitar backwards. It fucking feels wrong.
Really?
Matt
Matt
had
had
this
ambidextrous masturbation.
No.
Can you?
Yeah.
Double fisted it?
Yeah, I can go back and
Oh
forth.
my god, you're like bang, bang,
Yeah,
bang,
exactly.
bang.
Yeah.
Shifting
That's
from
called
hip to
alternate
hip.
picking.
Matt had to string his dick upside down because he's a lefty.
Yeah,
That's how that works.
You had to do this kind of
I don't understand.
I'm
It's
playing
like
a
this,
left-handed dick. I'm playing a right-handed dick here. I don't
Well,
understand.
that's when you give it the old Frenchman's tug and you just go
It's always
outward.
like
with the
jerking
fingers
someone
up.
else,
Yeah.
huh?
Hey, enjoy your burrito, everybody.
Now leaving Nerdist.com. Enjoy your burrito.
This episode of the Nerdist Podcast is brought to you by Stamps.com. Go to Stamps.com, click on the radio microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in Nerdist for a $110 bonus offer, including a digital scale and $55 of free postage. That's Stamps.com. Enter the promo code Nerdist.